Welcoming you to another episode of Common Ground, the policy roundtable where we bring together a panel with diverse views on issues of concern to Newton residents and try to hammer out some of our differences. For those of you who are new to the show, let me introduce the rules. First, I introduce a topic. Then we go around the table once, with each panelist expressing a viewpoint. I then select the two panelists who disagree the most strongly and ask them to speak directly to one another in hopes of finding some area of agreement. At the end of each topic, I give an assessment of how we did at finding common ground, and on top of that, sometimes I'll put in my 2 cents on the topic. We have a fabulous set of guests tonight, really impressive panel, and some interesting and I must say timely topics. We also have, as always, a fabulous crew here at NewTV, and they are able to overcome, I find, even the most tricky technical difficulties, like, for example, when the God mic is on in the studio. So I'm sure they'll be able to fix that pretty soon. Anyway, without further ado, let me introduce today's fabulous panel. To my left is Pam Wright.
Hi.
Pam, right to my left. How about that? Pam is a member of the City Council, at large from Ward 3.
Correct.
And are you in your second or third term now?
This is my third.
Third?
Second. No, second.
Wait,
I
you
think
just
second. I think
No,
it's
third.
third. That's what I get.
Third.
Starting your third term. So you've been on the
Seems
council
like
for a little
forever.
more than 4 years.
Yes.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, right? Nothing controversial ever happens at the City Council, right? And you are now, I believe, on the Zoning and Planning Committee. Is that right?
Yes, I've been on it the whole time.
And what other roles do you have on the council these days?
I'm also on safety, public safety and transportation. I'm also
That's also going to be useful tonight.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
I'm on the working group on the Washington Street pilot. I'm on Franklin working group also.
Okay, you're a lot of working groups. You're doing a lot of
Yes.
working, and you bring a unique set of skills. I don't know if it's unique, but a useful set of skills to this,
Yes.
which is that you're an engineer
Yes.
by training and profession.
Yes, I worked in engineering for over 20 years, and I'm the only engineer on the City Council.
I think ever. Have we ever had another engineer?
Hello.
Wait, you're an engineer? I thought you were a math teacher and a language teacher and
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But-
Greer, and you're a realtor.
Did you not?
Yes. Well, and I know, and yeah, but so Greer, you have too many roles for me to keep track of all of them. You do too much. I can't remember all that. Yes, of course. But no, that is a good point. Thank you for reminding me. Well, okay, and so I could say we now have 100% of all the engineers ever to serve on the City Council right at this table, and I mean it is amazing. Just as a side note, being in Newton. The amazing things that people are working on and accomplishing, like you never know who you're going to run into on the street. I mean, literally, I think at one point we had the most Nobel laureates per capita of any place in the world in Newton. So I mean, it's just you don't have to win a Nobel Prize to be doing amazing stuff. So anyway, well, thank you for being on the show again, Pam.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you back. Michael Halle.
Halle.
I said it right. Okay, like the comment. Michael, I think it's your second time on the show, so
right.
welcome
In
back.
the distant past.
Yeah, well, so like the comet comes around every once in a while, right? And you are a research scientist at Brigham and Women, is that?
That's right. That's right.
And what kind of research science do you do there?
Right now, my project is building open anatomy atlases so that anyone in the world can use them for free. We take the data that NIH has paid for, reuse it, give it a new life, and let people use it for whatever purpose. So we have collaborators in Africa that are using our atlases and giving them back to us too. It's a great thing.
That is fabulous. I hope they use this knowledge for good, not for evil.
I do as well.
But sounds like some pretty interesting stuff. And you are also a multi-issue community activist. And there's people who are community activists that get all charged up about one thing and you never hear from them on anything else. But you've been involved in a lot of things. But I guess the thing you're maybe most known for is you are now, I guess, the chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee?
That's right.
What is that?
Advisory group. TAG.
Advisory group.
Right.
TAG, of course.
Right.
It's got a cool acronym.
That's
Like
right.
it's
You're
not
it.
TAC.
You're it.
Yeah.
So TAG is a citizens advisory group that works to provide feedback to the mayor and the city staff about whether it's a street corner that maybe councilors have heard about and they want to find information about, or just how to make a street better and safer. And so we provide a lot of feedback and do a little education as well.
And do people take your advice?
I think so. We have no power, so the only thing that we can do is actually go on merit. So
Well, it is good that your advice is being considered, because, I mean, there have been a lot of committees and commissions in Newton over the years that write these big reports that just get totally ignored. So congratulations on getting somebody's attention for your...
no, let's not get carried
But-
away.
Anyway, well, thanks for being
Thank
back
you.
on the show. And Tarik Lucas,
Hello.
what do I need to say? Tarik, what is this, the 9th time you've been on the show?
9th time.
All right,
Ninth time.
once you hit double digits, so I don't know what happens. But,
Yeah.
we'll find out next time you're on, I guess.
That's right, yes.
You'll be in the elite Common Ground panelist
Yes,
category.
that's
The-
right.
The 10-timers. It's like hosting Saturday Night Live, once
Yep,
you're on a
yep.
certain number of times.
Exactly.
I think that you don't need a prize for that. It's the satisfaction itself of,
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for inviting me back, Ken.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, Tarik is also a member of the City Council. Tarik, how many years have you served now?
I've been on the city council for almost 3 years, but this is my 3rd term.
What?
You
Oh,
heard,
is that fine?
you,
They're
you,
2-year
you,
terms.
you heard that correct.
Almost?
I finished
'cause you
off
finished up.
Congressman Auchincloss's term.
Oh, that's
I
right.
served a full 2-year term, and now I'm at the beginning.
So you've just had. So you were basically a freshman with Pam then.
I was in. We
You were like a couple
yeah,
months before
I
her.
was like almost a year
Behind her.
after her.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
after her.
yeah.
You okay?
Special
you were the
election.
following. Right. Got
Yeah.
it. Yes, it's all coming back to me. You ran at the same time, but you didn't
That's
win
right.
the first time
Ah.
because Congressman Auchincloss won the seat that time.
He beat me.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
But you then rapidly came back and
Yeah.
your persistence pays off.
It
right?
does. Hard work also pays off.
Yes. Well, there's that too.
I think you're the #1 vote getter of the city council.
Yeah. It's.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you, voters.
And so, Tarik, you are a counselor at large from Ward 2, of course,
Yes.
the Newtonville area.
Yep.
I should have mentioned Pam is Ward 3, which is the West Newton area mostly, more or less. Not exactly, but close enough. And what committees are you serving on these days?
I am the vice chair of the land use committee. I serve on
My
the
condolences on that one.
No, I know the land use is a lot of fun. I also serve on the public safety and transportation committee, just like Pam, and I'm also the vice chair of the real property reuse committee.
That's a
and
party every day.
that is going to be a party this term.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And, all right, well, and of course, professionally, you work. We always make a joke about this, but I'm not going to make a joke this time because
Yeah.
they're injured now.
Yeah, yes.
So you work in the publishing department at Harvard University.
That's right. Harvard University Press, 15 years. And also that means I've been a 15-year member of the Harvard Union and Clerical and Technical Workers, something that may come up in this program today.
Oh, well, not your union.
Not my union,
All
no.
right. Well, we'll
not
get to
my
what we're
union.
going to talk about in a
Yes.
minute. But first, let's introduce Greer. Greer, welcome back. Greer and you were probably a similar number of times on the show. I don't think Greer counts, though.
I don't keep count. I have no idea.
She
how
has
many
no idea,
times.
but probably roughly around the same.
At
But,
least.
Greer, you were a city councilor for how many terms?
3 terms.
3 terms, so 6 years on the city council. You've also, and we were joking about it before, but you have many roles in the community. You've been active in the Chinese American Association.
Yeah, I was president of the GBCCA, which is one of the largest Chinese associations in the Boston area, and as you say, many hats. I teach. I teach at the elementary school level at a private school in Wellesley. I teach after school in Newton. I have now been enlisted to teach Tai Chi in the evenings. So I keep collecting titles.
Educator, engineer, teacher. I'm pretty sure at one point gambler.
Oh, right, yeah, that too.
Am I right? There's too many, right?
Oh, it's all
And you
fun.
volunteer with the Liger Bots and
Yeah.
realtor. I left that off.
Oh, yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, so that's why I forgot the engineer. There's like,
It's okay.
anyway. All right. Well, thank you for being back on the show. All right. So, people may have heard there has been a little bit of a kerfuffle in town recently. Not to make light of it, it's been very serious for a lot of people. But especially those of us who have children in the schools, the teachers. I was going to say unexpectedly went on strike. Tarik, you told me you knew about this last May.
I first heard of someone in the know told me they were going to go on strike in May.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's shocking to me that they knew already at that point. But anyway, I was taken by surprise by it because I know that a few months before, the head of the teachers union, Mr. Zillis, am I pronouncing? People correct me if I got that wrong. Is it Zillis?
Zillis, yeah.
Mr. Zillis was asked if they were going to go on strike, and he said, no, it's against the law. We would never do that. And then, so I took him at his word, and thus was quite surprised when they did go on strike. So there were 11 school days canceled. It wasn't really much of a vacation because no one could go anywhere knowing that the next day
Not knowing.
there might be school again.
Yep.
So it was, and of course, people hadn't planned for babysitting or other programs, and it was very
That's rough.
stressful.
Yeah, we couldn't plan ahead at all.
The way I look at it is it was like, for those of you who really enjoyed the pandemic, this was just a little memory of it was like a little mini pandemic after. It's like bringing back.
For us, it was like The Shining crossed with Groundhog Day. It
Yeah,
was not good.
yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, obviously there's two, in my mind, major categories of things that need to happen now that the strike is over. One major category is fiscal planning. The city needs to figure out what our budget is and how we're going to handle paying for stuff we need to pay for, like teachers and schools in the future. And the other is there's some healing that needs to happen in the community. And I think part of healing is people speaking their minds and saying how they feel about things. And at some point, hopefully being able to move on. So I think it would be helpful for our show to play a little role in both of those things. So those are our first two topics tonight. We're going to talk about the finances, then we're going to talk about how the city can move on from this, what lessons we can learn from it. And then we've got a really exciting topic. We're going to talk about something that is perplexingly to me called a road diet. Since I wouldn't want to eat one, and I've heard people say they're going to leave you in their dust on the road, but that doesn't sound appetizing. So, the point being that there is a proposal to pilot on one of the streets, in one of the major streets in Newton, Washington Street, a reduction in the thoroughfare and the number of lanes, and we will talk about that because that's at least, I think, a little bit counterintuitive that would be a good idea. So without further ado, let's start with the first topic. And I'm gonna oversimplify this as I often do to introduce the topic. I'm just gonna ask the panel to go around the table and tell me whether we are going to need, based on this new teacher's contract, whether we'll need an override in Newton. Pam, you sit in the lucky seat to my left. You get to go first on the first topic.
So we have, as the city council, we haven't seen the details of the contract. We've seen some rough ideas. So until we see that, we won't know. The school budget takes about, I think, 69% of our total budget, and out of that, 89% is salaries. So it does take a big chunk. And then on top of it, there's other unions that are going to be coming behind. I think the patrolmen don't have a contract
The
yet.
police officers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're probably going to be asking for similar. So we haven't seen it yet. We're going to meet with the mayor, I think in 2 or 3 weeks, and with the budget, but then the school committee next Monday. So we'll hope to see it. I'm worried that it is not sustainable. So
What do
we'll
you
have to
base
see.
that worry on?
So our finances only, Proposition 2.5, we only have 2.5% increase. And then you have additional growth and other things. to add in. So we're looking at between 3 and 4%, usually I think 3 to 3.5% is what's the increase of our money coming into the city. And so if you're going to go beyond that, and as you can see, the teachers' salaries is a big chunk of our whole budget. And there's other things that are increasing more than 4%, like our payoff on the retirement funds and things like that.
OPEB,
so,
too, right?
yeah, OPEB and stuff. So it'll be interesting. I think, with ARPA money.
I'm breaking my own rule. I use this acronym OPEB. So OPEB, other post-employment benefits.
Yes.
Sorry, it has
Yeah.
to do with retirement. Go.
And we are on the hook right now. We're $1 billion, over $1 billion that we have to pay off or pay in to the bucket, I think by 2032.
That's what, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well,
so there's a
billion
lot
here,
of.
a billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, it's helped the last couple of years because of the extra money that we've had from
that-
ARPA that helped the city.
The
in a
federal
lot of
grant.
Yes.
The pandemic grant. Okay. So, but bottom line is you're concerned that the pace of cost increases may outstrip the revenues
Yes.
available under Prop 2.5?
Yep.
Okay, so that sounds like you're leaning towards we'll probably need an override at some point. Is that, am I characterizing correctly?
Yes. Again, we have to sit down and take a look at the numbers.
Okay. All right. Mike.
No.
Well, you prefer Mike or Michael?
Mike is fine.
Mike,
Thank
okay.
you.
Mike, are we going to need an override as a result of this contract?
Well, I think we will. And first, I defer to my city council experts to sort of put this more in perspective. They have more information about this. But the one thing I think was lost in this discussion, out of the passion that went into saying fully fund our schools, that in many people's minds was associated specifically with the teacher contract. But that is not the whole story. Once the teacher contract is settled, that is the personnel. That's a personnel piece, a big personnel piece. But then we have to do all the things we knew we needed before by the time we got this great superintendent, which is how do we change the curriculum to make Newton be the kind of school system that is excellent for every kid. And if we can do that, then everyone is proud and happy, and that really lifts the city up. And then we still have to fix our buildings. So it's really a three-piece, and we've been talking about one piece. So I think now the superintendent knows the relationship with the teachers and can work on that second piece and say, this is how much this is going to cost. And I have full faith in her, of all the people in the city, to make the case. This is what we need to do. She is the person who's best to do that. So once we have that picture, then that's the real financial picture, besides fixing our schools, which we know has been a problem for a long time. That is the case we make for an override.
So you think we'll need one, but you think it's not just based on the teacher
Not
contract?
at all.
Other factors will contribute
Absolutely.
as well.
And really important ones.
Okay, interesting. Tarik, what do you think? We're going to need one or not?
We definitely will need another override, and I don't want to scare the folks at home, but it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be next year. It will probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 years from now is when we will need another override.
4 to 8.
That is my take on it. If we were to try to pass an override next year or 2 years from now, I don't know if the mayor
again,
has enough.
Just to back up, that might be a follow-up question, whether it would pass.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
I'm just asking, will we need one to
Yes.
sustain this
Okay.
contract?
All right. Yes. So I think the answer is yes. We needed an override last year, and that was probably that was mainly allocated towards the schools and the teachers. They got a new contract. The prior contract wasn't around 2019, 2020. So this one is going to expire, I believe, in 2028. I believe around there, 27 or 28. So sometime around then is when we will need an override to just put more money into the coffers. That is my take on this.
Okay.
And another thing relating to the strike and to make the potential override more complicated, to throw another wrench in there, is that when we look at our school enrollment projections, as we all know, they are projected to go down in the next 5 years. And that's a post-COVID pre-strike analysis based upon December 2021 and January 2023, 2 different school enrollment projections. They each had it going down. And now with the strike, I worry that more families are going to pull their children out of the schools as a result of the strike, mainly because they lost confidence in NPS. And that is just another wrinkle to throw into the override when the school department is going to ask for more money when the enrollment is going down.
Tarik, wouldn't that mean we wouldn't need an override if we didn't have as many students in the schools? Wouldn't need as many teachers? Wouldn't that save us a lot of money?
I told you I was going to throw in another wrinkle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll need one unless there is a significant decline in the school population.
Who knows?
Okay.
That's why you want to wait until 4 years to see what those projections actually look like. So.
All right. Greer, what do you think?
I think that it's really hard to predict because I agree with Tarik. I think that we traditionally in this town have really been terrible with our projections. I don't think we've been very good. I mean, let's see, what have we had? We had the closing of Meadowbrook. Was it Meadowbrook Middle School that closed?
Meadowbrook Junior High.
Junior high at the time, and then immediately needed it back, like within what, 5-10 years. We've closed.
I think Meadowbrook's the one that became Brown. I don't know that it closed. I think you mean Oak Hill. Oak Hill was.
Well, then we had to build. No.
Right.
Warren used to be a middle school.
So what's Warren Weeks is the one.
Weeks was another one.
Because Weeks, Warren, and Bigelow, we got Bigelow back. Bigelow had like dance and stuff going on in it.
Right.
Day, and the only two we had for a while were Day and Brown. Brown is the former Meadowbrook.
Right, and then you had to go and build Oak Hill after you
Turned
just
an
closed.
elementary school into a middle
Exactly,
school. Right
yeah.
across the street.
Right.
That's another kerfuffle we
Yeah.
could talk about.
Right, but and then we had these other. Let's see, we just need a little satellite. I mean, my kids went to the same elementary school that Mike's did. Are they out of it yet? No,
Just
they're
out.
just out. Just
Yeah.
out. You see, I used to teach them, so I remember
Yeah,
that
so
middle
I'm
school.
used to my daughters.
Oh, wow, cool. So there's all these that's
Absolutely.
student.
But when my kids were in that school, they were introduced to the temporary classrooms.
Yeah,
okay,
and they're still there, right?
and they were already there 10 years when they went there. It's been there over 30 years.
Yeah, those were modulars that were going to be there for a few years.
10-year modulars. And you want to know what 10-year modulars don't have bathrooms. 10-year modulars do not have wheelchair access. 10-year modulars suck.
And they're cold or they're hot.
Yeah, they're cold, they're hot, the
yeah.
windows don't really work. Oh yeah, it's all kinds of crazy business. But again, poor prediction of what capacity was going to be.
So let's make a better prediction then. Based on what you know now, do you think we'll need an override?
So I think that if I could be confident of the leadership that is managing the budget, and I'm seeing two of them here, so it gives me, it gives me a little bit more faith. With our new superintendent, gives me a little bit more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had said that even the last override, I believe mathematically we needed it, but the reason I was against it was I had no faith that it was going to be used properly. I supported the debt exclusion and I did not support the operation, not because I didn't think they need it, it's just that I felt like I was throwing good money after bad.
And thank you, Greer. I'm not sure if this is going to work here, really, but I'm going to try to use our format because I say I'm not sure if it's going to work because there's
Too much agreement?
Too much agreement. I think I can find enough disagreement that at least I want to pick out one thing where there might be some disagreement. And again, Mike, you talked about you seem pretty confident we're going to need an override. Greer seems like maybe the least confident at the table. So why don't you talk to each other about this? Mike, why don't you go into a little more detail on why you think we'll need one? You said there's three things, and see if you can persuade Greer that you know what you're talking about here.
Right, and I think there's a little bit of splitting the difference. I think the real key is what happens in 8 years when the pension is fully funded. How does that influence our budget? If we're talking about an override in 8 years, maybe that's actually when we don't. We get to 2032 and the situation could change significantly. between now and then, things are going to get squeezed tighter because the pension is going to eat up more and more of the budget and everything else is going to be squeezed out. It's not that we'd get more money if we squeezed it from the pension. It's going to squeeze us out and the pain's going to be more. That's the thing I'm most concerned about. And I think on the trust piece, maybe you and I are on the same page, that the one person who can do this is the expert who is pretty dynamic. I've talked with her, I've talked with Superintendent Nolan.
Which expert? Oh, the superintendent is the expert.
Absolutely. And again, I think she's the bee's knees as far as being able to make this case. Will she be able to do it with the teachers about the changes that have to happen in the schools? I think that's a discussion that would have to happen. But the pension is the thing that scares me the most as far as how that will influence whether we need an override.
And I will agree to that to a certain extent. And I agree. I'm very impressed with Superintendent Nolan, and I hope that she will continue to deserve and build on our respect. What I think needs to be done, and it's been said in the past, is Newton needs to ask for smaller overrides. Even though I realize that there is a huge gap, but the thing is you're asking people for a lot of money who currently have no faith in the leadership in spending that money. I think that if I see I guess the best word is a compassionate override, not like the other, that was just too big of a gap to ask for and try to fight trust. I would say maybe a smaller override, have it approved, see it spent responsibly, and they might successfully get another override. Again, small piecemeal. I'm going to try to stay away from analogies because that's my weak spot.
Oh, please, Greer. You've got so many creative.
I know. I'm really sorry. But
when the killer robots move in, no, sorry. I do like Lagerbot joke,
Yes, of course, of course. My real thing is that when managing a city, it's over long term, right? And when you ask for these gargantuan, I'm going to say gargantuan because it was a pretty large ask last time. When you ask for these big overrides.
So, but again, Greer, what about whether it's going to pass or not?
Yeah.
But just from the percentage increases in the teacher's contract and the other expected expenditures like funding, other post-employment benefits, things that we know have to be funded by law, do you think that to balance the books without layoffs, there will be a need for an override? Not that it'll pass, not that it'll even be proposed. That's the question.
Yes, I'm going to have to say that I do think that for us to continue, given what's been happening in the world, the cost of just getting stuff done these days, I think that we do need we will need an override, and I will reserve judgment on whether it'll pass.
I just agree on the trust piece. You've got to be able to sell it, and I think what the city council is doing to work on how do you make the budget more understandable for people is one way to do that. How do you get so it doesn't seem like magic? And it's not everyone's going to be able to understand that, but if you know someone who understands that, or know that if you wanted to, you could get that information. People are telling the truth. This is the way it is. I think that's what it is.
So I will differentiate. I would so not use the word sell. I think, and I don't.
Selling is bad. No, just kidding.
Well, no, because it sounds like you're trying to push something on people that they don't
Convince.
need. Yeah, I think that it's convincing, and I don't think it's just understanding the budget. I think part of the problem is there were a lot of people who were looking at the budget and they just didn't agree with it. I think they need to put together a budget that not only can they understand, but makes sense to more people.
All right. Well, we were getting so close to common ground there. Now,
I'm sorry.
But I'm going to bring the other panelists in because I imagine they probably got some thoughts based on what was. Pam, Tarik, is this just a question of when we're going to need the override, not if we're going to need an override? Is that what we're really talking about here?
I think so. I didn't support the operational override because I believed, again, it was such a big ask, and there was still a lot of money here, and all of a sudden when it didn't pass, they found that money. But I've said we will need something farther down the road if other things don't change. So it is hard to predict, but if it's, take what we know today and move it down, I do think we will need an override.
Yeah.
Frank, any other thoughts on this?
Just on the timing of it, we definitely will, but just on the timing, we also have to look into one of the reasons why this last one failed, and that's inflation. Inflation, we were at a 40-year high, and everything was that much more expensive at the store. So we need to look at what we predict or project what the inflation rates will be, again, 3, 4, up to 8 years from now, because you do not want to try to pass an override when we have record inflation in the last 40 years.
When everybody's being hit so hard already.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
when people are
And
Yeah.
you cannot do it. I understood why the mayor did it this past time. It was money for the schools, and I get it, but I think that's one of the reasons why it didn't pass. So we have to be careful and just looking at other outside factors, but we definitely will need an override.
So there's a difference, again, that to me is the distinction between when we need one and when we can pass one. And those two might not necessarily line up perfectly.
Yeah.
I think that was certainly the case last year.
Yeah.
All right, well, I mean, it seems like we've got a fair amount of common ground around the table that Proposition 2.5's constraints are not consistent with our ability to fund this contract combined with the other obligations of the city. I think there's a recognition that the other unions are going to expect roughly the same amount of increase as the teachers, as has happened historically. And what that's going to mean down the road is that our costs are increasing at more than the 2.5% plus new growth. Particularly, by the way, if you take the new growth and use it the way it's intended to be used under Prop 2.5. The idea of Prop 2.5 is new growth means you're going to have more housing, more kids in the schools. You'll need to build more schools and hire more
money in it.
teachers, more police, more firefighters, more trash collectors, public works. You need new growth. So really, if you isolate the new growth component, which does bring it to an average of about 3.25% a year revenue increases, if you take out that extra 0.75% for new growth, what you're left with is a 2.5% annual increase in the revenue available per teacher or per employee.
New residential growth.
Right. Well, so what this means? Well, that's a whole other thing. Residential versus commercial. Commercial is, of course, much more
better.
ratable,
Yeah.
and we're going in exactly the opposite
Right.
direction because the Blue Ribbon Commission, the Citizens Advisor Group, the Finance and Management Working Groups, all these groups said, well, if we want to be fiscally sustainable in Newton without overrides, the only way to do that would be to increase the percentage of our tax base that's commercial.
Right.
Like Cambridge or Waltham or other communities.
Watertown.
Boston,
Right.
that have strong commercial tax bases.
Right.
Well, for reasons that we've discussed on other shows, the current political momentum is to do expanded residential development.
And shrink commercial.
shrink commercial.
Not
And
just
commercial.
expand.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, these overlay districts are allowing or converting existing commercial properties or allowing existing commercial properties to be turned into residential. And there's all kinds of policy arguments about whether that's a good idea or bad idea.
Are we talking about zoning tonight?
We're not talking
Okay, all right, okay.
But just to get to my 2 cents on this topic, I think that Tarik is absolutely right that it's a tough sell in an inflationary environment to pass an override. But ironically, that's the time you need it most. Because
Probably.
your costs are going up, your energy costs are going up, and your salary costs should be going up because your employees have their
Need
real dollar salaries actually decreasing. If you increase someone's salary 2.5% and inflation's 8.5%, their ability to buy groceries has decreased in a real sense. So I was a strong and enthusiastic supporter of last year's override. Because I thought that our employees deserved to get a cost of living increase that kept up with inflation. And I thought it would be necessary. Whether the messaging and the persuasion and the way it was framed were ideal, I think we could all quibble with. But I did think it was important because I think the strife, the labor strife that we're experiencing now was inevitable to some extent, not the strike, but the strife, once the override didn't pass, because our ability to give people cost of living increases that would keep their buying power consistent was undermined by the failure of the override. And that to me, and people, you get all kinds of questions. People say, oh, well, my taxes went up a lot. Well, did you do a renovation? Did things on your street sell for a lot? Because the overall levy limit only goes up 2.5% with new growth. So if yours went up by a lot, someone else's went down, and the city's overall revenue is not keeping pace with the costs of the things that we need to pay for. And, just like individuals have to pay for things, the city has to have a balanced budget. We don't get to borrow. We're not the federal government.
No.
We can't run a deficit. So I do think we need an override. We needed the override a year ago, and we certainly need it now. So I guess I'm a little bit more on the side than most of the panelists of we need it sooner rather than later, and we need it as a direct consequences of that big cost in the budget that Pam talks about, which is paying our employees. That's most of what we spend our money on. Whether we need more employees, even just to pay our existing employees, we really do need to override 2.5. And then here, one other thing which I'm not persuaded yet, that a couple of the panelists said, well, try smaller overrides. I don't know anyone, I mean, that of the people who are on either side of the issue, that if the number of the operating override had changed a couple $1 million one way or another, would have changed their vote. In other words, there were people who said, I have no faith in the mayor, I'm voting against the operating override. And there are other people who said, I'm for it, I want to support the schools. I don't think if you change that number, I think you're better off doing an honest and thorough advocacy job to explain what's needed, why it's needed, and then not have to do it every couple of years. Do it once and get it over with for at least a 4 to 8 year period. A slightly different philosophy of these things than a couple of the members of the panel. You get to the same place eventually, but I'd rather just get it done and not have to keep coming back to it. Anyway, I think we are thoroughly ready for some healing in the city, and so let's talk about how we heal the city in the wake of what was, I think, one of the most divisive incidents since the pooper scooper law was passed, which was before any of us were on the city council. But
yeah,
I've heard the stories.
Even
Paul
before
Coletti,
you?
Yeah, Paul Coletti tells it was like in the 1970s apparently, and there was like a huge angry crowd saying, "You can't make me pick up after my dog. It's nature," which really shows you there has been some progress in Western civilization. The most controversial thing apparently in the last 50 years that the city council has done. Apparently there was a lot of dog crap on the streets for a long time in the city. But anyway, that worked. We've achieved pooper scooper very thorough compliance, if not 100%. And we've had peace over that issue. Now, can we have peace over this labor strife? What do we need to do as a community? Obviously, teachers are upset, parents are upset, people who are neither teachers nor parents are upset. I think I've covered everyone now. What do we do?
Or both teacher and parent.
People who are teachers and parents are upset. People are upset about the tone of the discussion. People are upset about the illegality of the strike. People are upset about they feel is not honest communication from the other side. Lots of things people are upset about. How do we heal this? Greer, why don't you go first?
To me, the most the most grating point is that the people most influential in our children's lives next to their own parents, namely the teachers, broke the law, and they're not facing any consequence. I think some consequence. I'm not saying what kind of consequence, but at this point, we've come to. But a lot of people are saying, I feel like a really bad lesson is currently being taught to our kids right now, which is if you don't get your way, you get to throw a hissy fit, and you can break the laws, and everybody will excuse you because you were upset. And I don't think that is a lesson.
Okay, so Greer, here's my question: if the teachers were to say, if the teachers union or some teachers were to say, we made a mistake, we hurt the community, we shouldn't have done that, would that heal the community? What would need to happen in your mind for that healing process to start?
There needs to be a consequence. apology and consequence.
And an apology wouldn't be enough.
No, apology would not be, because they knew that it was legal. You need to, this is what we teach our children. Okay, I understand you were upset, it was out of your control, it was an accident, and because you apologize, maybe your consequence, but you still have to have a consequence.
What kind of consequences do you think would be appropriate?
I'm just putting out
Financial
there.
consequences? You mean like your parents' lawsuit that's being talked about? Is that the kind of thing you're thinking of?
I will admit that I am probably the most angry at the people who got themselves involved that don't belong in our community. Like the MTA, like half the people I saw talking, I'm here like, you don't even live here. You don't have kids here, you don't live here. What? Why are you here?
Do they work here or no? People
No,
okay.
no. They have nothing to do with us. They have no business commenting on
Are you talking about this Max
Page.
Max Page from the MTA?
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to? Or?
Well, that would definitely be one of the people that I was talking to. There are a couple of people who really, they were taking a stand that it was a stage for them. They had everything to gain, nothing to lose, and the people who had something to lose were losing. And they didn't care because, you know, what the heck? Oh,
well,
it's not their community.
okay, I'm going to go around finish going around the table, and I'll go this way so you can all be ready for that. But just to understand, Greer, what do you imagine is a feasible consequence at this point? They've got their contract. What is that?
Well, I think the
Do you think people should be fired for breaking the law? I mean, what are you talking about?
So I'm a little. I would say I have a little bit more sympathy towards the teachers. You know, we had talked before. I do think that they were in a very, very tough position. I know some teachers were completely convinced that they were doing the right thing, and maybe they aren't as victimized as I would say. But I would say there are some people who didn't even realize they were being victimized, and they just weren't really given a choice.
You mean teachers?
Teachers. Teachers, because I think that
Who are they being victimized by?
The union. And the union, the very organization that's supposed to be protecting them, was victimizing them because the union had more to gain than the teachers had to gain. And the union, even if they agree with the union 80% of the time, when a teacher the problem is the teachers can never disagree with the union. You get blacklisted. I know that's, you know, people think that it's hearsay. I have public school teachers in my family, husband's family, but, you know, and they taught in the public school system, and they figured out that if they were intelligent, so they had opinions, it didn't always agree with the union, maybe most of the time it did, but it didn't, you're not allowed to voice dissension. And their solution to that was they went into the private sector. They had to, because otherwise their careers, they wanted to be teachers. They were career teachers.
All right, I'm not going to
Don't go into that.
I'm not going to keep pressing you on what the consequences should be. There should be some consequences.
There should be some
for
consequences.
the union, not for the individual teachers, but for
Yes,
the. Okay.
definitely for the unions. Yes.
Okay. All right. For the Newton Teachers Association.
Yeah.
The NTA.
Or the MTA. I
Okay,
wish
well.
we could do something about them.
Okay.
But,
Maybe beyond. I'm not sure if we can do anything about any of this, but that would require. Sounds like the healing is. That's a big ask to get to healing in your view. But
a little bit.
Okay, Tarik, what do we do for healing in this community?
Yeah, this is a complicated one. I started off the show saying that I've been a union member for the last 15 years. My father is a retired postal worker. My mom is a registered nurse in the public sector. So I have the utmost respect for labor unions. And when the strike happened, or right before it happened, the city council signed a letter, 22 of 24, Pam was one of them as well, signed a letter urging the teachers union not to go on strike, because one reason why I signed it, I knew it was going to divide the city on an issue which I think a lot of people agree on. Teachers deserve a lot of respect, and they deserve money. But going on strike, as Greer said, is a violation of state law, and that angered a lot of people. And I think a lot of people got on the bad side of the teachers union and the teachers. That's my take on it. And that divided the city when it wasn't necessary.
Do you think people lost respect for Newton teachers over this?
The Newton Teachers Association. And then, yes, teachers too as well. I'm not naming names, and I know people are upset with the teachers, yes. Some of the
Do you think
Newton.
the teachers in the city, Tarik, do you know or have any idea whether any of them regret going on strike or they think it was a mistake?
I have not heard anything like that. But again, there's 2,000 teachers, and I can't speak to all of them.
Right.
But
okay. I'm just wondering if any.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let everyone else answer
Yeah.
that question as we go around the table.
But,
They've
yeah.
heard any regrets.
But
Even off the record, because
getting back to what you said, how do we heal? Time heals all wounds, and it's going to take a lot of time to get the city back together where it was.
well, you said something
before
before,
the
though,
strike.
Tarik, on the earlier topic that you thought people would pull their kids out of the public schools.
Yes.
Have you heard from anyone who's going to do that?
Yes.
Yep.
And
know
again,
people who did that.
we will wait and see what
Already?
Yep.
the
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
what the enrollment looks like in September. Right now, we're about 11,700 students in NPS. We'll look at it in September, but yeah, it's going to go down a lot. But getting back to the question that you asked, how do we heal? Time heals all wounds, and it's going to take.
Well, it doesn't sound like it.
It's
If people are
gonna.
pulling their kids out.
Well,
that's
it's
they're
gonna.
done.
Well,
that's
it's
like.
the ones who keep
That's
the
like-
ones who keep their kids
people
in.
You know, by the way,
have
time
that
doesn't
luxury.
heal all wounds.
Well,
you know? Some people die, from the medical field.
Well,
right?
time. It's a saying. Time heals all wounds,
Yeah.
and it's going to take a lot of time. We have the pending litigation against the teachers union. That's going to divide the city some more, and again, people are still upset with the action that the teachers union took, and it's going to
All right.
it's going to take time.
Okay.
And
no, you don't have any during that time. There's no particular medicine that you'd recommend for this patient, though.
I'll leave that to the medical expert.
Oh, very, very deftly done. All right, but before we can, Greer, you know people who already pulled
Yes.
their kids out
Oh,
of
yeah.
school?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Like right in the middle of the strike?
Yes.
Or-
Yes.
Yes.
How do you even do that? How do you get a slot in a private school on such short
They lucked
notice?
out. They lucked out.
They lucked out. Okay, well, that's extraordinary. Mike,
This was
how do we heal?
This is a really difficult time for me and my family because we are very close to the teachers at Franklin, our elementary school, which I think is where a lot of the very close bonds happen in our school system. And we worked on things. We worked to get things for classrooms. That's what PTOs do. But we were also affected by the strike. I said before how difficult it was. And so parents are feeling this.
When you say it was difficult, are you comfortable talking about what you went through during it?
Well, first, we could not plan anything, but just the fact that I had to get out and do things with kids before they went stir crazy at home. And I think that's the least of all the things that parents faced. That's on the easiest side. And I had the luxury to do it. So that's the situation. This teacher, parent, child bond, this new dynamic is in it, and that's the thing that we have to heal. And
How do we do it, Mike?
so I think there's two things. One is we have to realize that a lot of emotion that I think didn't need to be inserted into this. This was a negotiation about a contract, about things that were very important, and it became very personal, and it is still personal. People are still holding on. I would say that the union leader's speech announcing that the strike was over.
Is this Mr. Zillis you're talking about?
Several
You
representatives.
plural, several of the
Yes.
union folks. Okay.
There were needless comments there that were personal about their
Parents.
political, and there were certainly on the city side. There were times when we started talking about what teachers were doing, whatever. It's about the contract and making it the best you can be. That's the way it should have been
Is
done.
there anything in specific that was said that you think shouldn't have been said? That
I
needs to
think
be
if
ignored?
people wanted to see that, the easiest is to look at the last news conference announcing it on the NTA side. I don't want to misrepresent it,
Okay.
but I felt there were missed opportunities to heal, that after a negotiation, you shake hands, you say this was difficult, we had differences, but
We're done.
now,
Wait.
not just we're done, this is the healing part. Our goal do we really believe that the mayor doesn't care for the schools? Do we believe
But
the
isn't
school
that what they
committee-
said at the press conference, that there are people, elected officials in the city, who don't care about the schools as
That's
much
right.
as teachers do?
That's right.
And that, as a result, you should vote them out? Wasn't that part of the press conference?
And that's the thing. If there's anything
Is that what you're talking about, though?
Yes. I mean, that's one of the elements. And again, there were things said on the administration side that were not helpful during the negotiation.
How about
They were not
since,
helpful.
though? Because things were heated during the negotiation.
Yes.
Since, do you, I mean, has the superintendent said something that you think has been divisive?
No,
Or the school
no.
committee chair, Chris
I
Brzezinski?
think after, once the signature was done, I think on the city side, it's been handled professionally. Everything that I've heard, every public announcement. And so I think that's what we have to move towards. The only way that we can heal from that is to remember we actually all care about the schools. This was all passionate because we cared about the schools, and we want Newton to have the school system that everyone in the state looks to, you know, in the glory days that we keep talking about. That is what we have to focus. And if we fail to do that, we will not get an override, and we'll be sad and at each other's throats again. That's what we have to focus on. That, if we can do that, time heals all wounds, but success begets success. If we make our schools better, people come back, and it won't take long. That is what we have to do, and it will be a real challenge.
So, again, any particular medicine that needs to be taken by anyone in this situation?
Is quite possible some sort of amnesia medicine. We have to forget. We have to forget.
We need a Harry Potter wizard here to help us out. Obliviate! Did I get that right?
Yes, and then accelerate, exactly. So if we can do that, I mean, that's the proof in the pudding, is that if we can turn this passion into, hey, now we give the superintendent running room to do this. And she's going to say some things that some teachers are probably going to be different than what they've always done. You've got to focus. That is what we have to do.
Okay, Mike, this sounds great, but just realistically, didn't we just get a statement yesterday from the teachers union that they no longer have faith in the superintendent? How is that?
I haven't heard it. That's what we have to change.
I haven't seen that.
No,
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Haven't seen it.
That
Yeah.
would be shameful.
Yeah.
Okay,
That-
well,
that's like
what
saying
we
they
have
don't want to
stop.
cooperate from the
Right.
just from the gate.
Right.
they're
That would be
losing
wrong.
faith. I think the word is that we're losing faith. I don't want to quote it
Yeah.
wrong, but
And I'm happy that most public comments that I've heard left her out. And I think, you know, if you're going to direct hostility towards the school committee or the mayor, it may not be fully appropriate, but it's not your boss that you need to move forward to make our schools excellent. That's what we have to do.
yeah, if we were like one of those big network news shows, we would then be pulling up the quote right on the screen now of like what was
ticker,
said.
yeah.
Anyway, but
I think that would be shameful if they really said
Yeah.
that. That
Let's-
sounds really
Yeah,
shameful.
let's hope that didn't happen.
okay. Let's obliviate all memory
Yes,
of that having
absolutely.
happened. All right, Pam.
So it is very difficult, and we received over 2,000 emails, and
Yeah.
only 20% of the residents have kids in public schools. So there's 80% that didn't, and those people were very angry, you know, and fire the teachers and this and that,
got
and
those.
Zillis, you know, he should be in jail, and you know all this, and so the parents have a lot of anger, but the rest of the community does too. And it's not going to be easy healing from this.
Is it true that the city pays Mike Zillis?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I was told.
yeah.
What does he need money from us for?
It's an historical artifact. I think we may pay two members of two teachers not to teach at this point. I know it was originally one, and I think at one point the school committee gave in negotiations and gave them a second one that's paid by the city. I could be wrong about that, but
We need someone
definitely
from the
so.
school committee here to confirm that.
Yeah, well, we need our fact checkers. Where are they? No, next show. Well, no, but it definitely the city
I
in
have
the
a
city
personnel
budget.
cut to suggest.
Anyway.
No.
Anyway, so Pam, please finish your thought.
I don't have any direct or any concrete way to do it. It is going to take time. And I also believe with Greer, there should be some consequences. I hope, you know, they got fined. I hope those fines for the union just doesn't go away, you know, that they were out. So
You hope that they pay those fines.
Oh, yeah.
They don't
Oh,
get
yeah.
excused. And so
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think
They
should.
knew it was coming. They already got it. They already got the judge to cap because it's supposed to escalate every single day, and they actually got it to
Lowered.
Yep.
plateau. They already got a break.
It went doubling every day up to
Day-
200, and then it went back down to 50,000
yeah.
a day. But
Yeah.
then the judge raised it to 100 if the thing didn't end and it ended.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't understand exactly the dynamics that were there. It was certainly spun different ways. So
I understand
you
the
know,
dynamics.
yeah.
I was in the courtroom.
Okay.
Anyway.
You were there.
But yeah, no. But well, we don't have time for that. But I'm going to say, Pam, I didn't want to cut you off there. You done
No, yeah, this-
telling us how to heal from this? I think that a lot of people are in the same boat as I am here in Newton, because I think people in Newton largely moved to the city because of the reputation of the schools. If it wasn't the driving factor, it was one of the factors. It's why my family moved here when I was 7 years old. It's why I choose to stay here as opposed to moving somewhere else. And I think great schools are our #1 asset. They attract the wonderful people that live here. And great teachers are the #1 reason why you have great schools. I fundamentally believe that the teaching profession should be considerably higher paid than it is now, more along the lines of what doctors and lawyers, like I'm a lawyer, and other professions get. It's right now kind of a second-class profession, and I think that is largely historic because it's sexism. It was primarily women who were teaching, and they were paid less.
And it's a public job. Lawyers and doctors are not.
Well,
public.
no, there's plenty of public lawyers work for the Attorney General's office, district attorney. I think there are plenty of
But they don't get paid as much as
Yeah,
private.
They
the
don't,
city
but they get
lawyers
paid.
don't make that much.
Well,
Yeah,
again,
Exactly.
I think that there is my wife's a teacher, and she got paid so little teaching that during the pandemic it wasn't even worth it for her to keep teaching. She just stopped teaching rather than have the stress of working. It was like, I don't need this. We don't need the money. It's not enough money incrementally to make a big difference. So there's a good high school math teacher not teaching somewhere because a great high school math. Sorry, because the compensation to the profession isn't high enough. That having been said, again, people in my shoes think. I mean, let me just say, I have a son who's in high school, and he says, well, Dad, you say I should obey these laws, but there's a lot of laws that are stupid. Why do I have to obey stupid laws? If I had a beer, what would be the problem with that, right? It's not toxic, So it's tricky. What are driving laws? There's stupid driving laws. There's all kinds of stupid laws out there, stupid rules. And so I make the point, well, we live in a civil society. We all make compromises. And we all, there's laws that we all benefit from other people following the laws. And so we make a deal in a civil society that we're all going to follow the laws, whether we think they're stupid or not. Why? Because it's the law. And it's very hard, from my perspective, for the people we hire to be leaders for our children. To educate is literally from the Latin to lead, to be people who, when they didn't get what they wanted, chose to break the law.
Yep.
And that is the crux of the pain here. I think that a lot of the teachers might not have fully understood what they were getting into with the strike, and I've heard that there are some regrets, that some wanted the strike to end sooner, that some thought it was going to be a one-day thing and they'd get what they wanted, and others felt pressured into voting for it so that they wouldn't be against the union. But whatever it is, I think people need to take responsibility for their actions. And I think it is enormously unfortunate because too much in our society today, people think that the ends justify the means. You don't like that your guy lost the presidential election? Storm the Capitol. I know that's an extreme example, but the ends do not justify the means. No matter how much you thought your guy was the greatest president in history, you don't get to break the rules.
Right.
And to me, what the teachers did is the same, not on the same scale, but the same kind of thing. They broke trust. And I think that I don't think we need to haul them into Folsom Prison, but I think there does need to be some kind of apology, which might take the form of, frankly, picking a new union leader. I think if the Newton Teachers Association changed their leadership, that would send the signal to the community that they recognize that a mistake was made. And to me, that would be the thing that would be the key to starting the healing process. Anyway, I think this. I'm sorry, Mike, didn't get to the third topic. We will talk about it some other time. But the strike thing, obviously, that's what.